Hello, Paulo Leite here, record collector. So this is part 2 of my visit to Power Park in Berlin. A great record shop that is all about vinyl, and so far I haven't found bad albums. Now let's go to the second room and see what they have on their Brazilian music collection. This one is a compilation from 1983. It contains selections from 3 very different Brazilian artists who played in Montreux. Among the reissues of well-known classics, I also found some classics that are yet to be reissued. This Walter Vanderlei from 1967 is one of those, a gorgeous blend of samba and bossa nova that cannot be reproduced today. This is the original stuff. This Zeca do Trombone e Roberto Sax from 1976 is lots of fun, Brazilian funk. More Walter Vanderlei. Get this album, you thank me later. Oh, one of my favorites, Banda Black Rio from 1977. And more Walter Vanderlei. Mind you, these albums are not hard to find in bad condition, but these ones are in great condition. Célia from 1972. Gorgeous album with beautiful arrangements by Arthur Verocai. We had lots of fun playing these albums while I was recording this video. And they sound as good today as they did 50-some years ago. Now, going back to what I was saying earlier, I do believe there are some time-traveling properties in buying old records. Somehow, we have the same pleasure listening to them now as someone did half a century ago. It's hard to explain, but when we hold those old beauties, they belong to us as much as we belong to them. It's like the collector and the piece become one. It's like if those artists were here again. And here's more Manu Dibango. He is one of those artists who doesn't have a bad album. Now we move to one of my favorite sections, Soul and Funk. James Brown, Ain't It Funky from 1970, and Revolution of the Mind from 1971. Gene Chandler, There Was a Time from 1968. This one is amazing. He had one of the best bands ever. This is one of the funkiest albums ever released by Brunswick Records, the same label that gave us the Shy Lights. I'm a huge fan of Hamilton Bohannon. These are great albums. Get these albums, you thank me later. This Four Tops Now from 1968 is, to me, their best album. It has a beautiful version of MacArthur Park, 2 Lennon-McCartney songs, and plenty more great stuff. This is a perfect album in every way, and it's a privilege to find it here. Tyrone Davis, Without You in My Life, from 1972. I haven't seen this one in years. Oh, Diana Ross and Marvin Gaye from 1973. There is a beautiful version here of You Are Everything, previously recorded by the Stylistics. KC and the Sunshine Band, Do It Good from 1974. And yes, KC did it. I must say I am impressed by the quality of this collection. All of these are great. Hard and Heavy by Wood, Brass and Steel from 1980. Oh my god, they were so good. This is their second album. 1980 is an incredible year in music. There was this transition going on between disco and new wave that gave birth to some very unique music. Oh, the Raw Band, The Crunch and Beyond from 1978. This is one great album. He had such a unique sound. And I say he because the Raw Band was basically a one-man act. Richard Anthony Hewson. Yes, Raw is his initials. He was a great musician who worked with the Beatles and other high-profile names before releasing his own albums. The Crunch and Beyond is his first one after he rebranded as the Raw Band. He was never very successful, but he was very good. Some of his 80s work achieved some success in South America. MBT Soul from 1977. This is an album that steals a number of melodies from the opera Pagliacci by Ruggero Leoncavallo. This is an example of how crazy and fascinating were the disco years. Michael Zager Band. This album took the world by storm in 1978. Michael Zager is a brilliant producer who worked with Whitney Houston, Luther Vandross, and tons of others. Let's All Chant is one of the most imitated disco sounds ever. This edition contains the long version, which I prefer. When it comes to disco, 3 minutes just won't cut it. And yes, of course we're gonna find Disco Tex and his Saxolettes. This one from 1976, another disco landmark. Yes, your chiffon is wet, baby. There's a generous amount of reggae and ska here. These are genres I do not know well, but judging by what I have just found so far, I know it's good. The same thing goes for hip-hop, techno, house music, drum and bass, and other related genres. And if you want to listen to any of those, there's a turntable right here. Right next to world music, you can find country and blues. Beautiful Brooke Benton album, Born to Sing the Blues from 1964. Dave Alexander, The Dirt on the Ground from 1973. Bessie Smith, of course. So many great albums. This is one of my favorites, How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by God, by Reverend Cleophas Robinson from 1965. You will not find a bad album here. Now let's take a look at what they have on jazz. Starting with Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers, Les Liaisons Dangereuses. This is the soundtrack from the 1959 French film by Roger Vadim. The film contains music by Thelonious Monk, but those Monk recordings remained unreleased until 2017. David Axelrod, Heavy Axe from 1974. Max Roach and Clifford Brown in Concert, 1956. One of my favorites, Donald Byrd, Street Lady from 1973. Love Cry by Albert Ayler from 1968. Oh My God, Looking Ahead by the Jazz Crusaders. This is their second album from 1962. Such a beautiful album. I wonder if they could guess how far their career would take them. And here's Uh-huh from 1967. Blue Monday is a beautiful track. And no, it has nothing to do with New Order's famous song with the same name. Powerhouse from 1969. Some beautiful tracks here. What an amazing collection. And if you look under the main display, there's plenty of folk, exotica, big bands from the 40s, spoken word, and special interest. Now let's take a look at their impressive singles collection. Classic Detroit Spinners, Diana Ross and Marvin Gaye, and this is just the beginning. Phil Trim, 1,000 Voices from 1975. This is a gorgeous song. I am a huge MFSB fan. Huge Billy Preston fan here too. These CBS Blitz Information discs were a German promo series released by CBS Schallplatten. They started, I believe, in 1969 and had these unique covers. Some of these titles are highly collectible because they contain versions never released elsewhere. They also have some jazz compacts with some great titles. And of course, rock. I rarely buy these compacts unless they contain something I cannot find elsewhere. And I think today is one of those days. This David Bowie and Pat Metheny group contains an instrumental version of This Is Not America that I simply love. This is not a particularly rare compact, but I love this song so much, so there you go. At this point, we were listening to this beautiful album by Robert Aron, Trouble Man, from 2010. What a beautiful album. This singles section is well organized and filled with great stuff. And right over there you can find the cheap ones. There is great stuff here for very little money. Here's the classical music section with some very nice titles. And more titles to be discovered under the main displays. Closing my visit, I decided to take a look at their bargain bin that's situated outside the shop. For just €3, I found a bunch of albums that are totally worth it. Blood, Sweat and Tears, Joe Cocker, Pete Townsend, Udo Lindberg, Veronica Fischer and Band, stuff that, for €3, you should try. On the soul side, Rose Royce, A Russian Tina Turner, George McRae, and Silver Convention. These are great titles. On jazz and classical, it's the same thing. You will always find something good here. This Previn plays Gershwin is so good. There you go. I don't say this often, but Power Park Recordstore is one of those rare record shops that have no trash. I'm afraid there are no bad albums here, and prices are quite fair. The shop is big enough to have a generous number of good titles and small enough to be able to carefully curate their collection. Plus, all vinyl is easily accessible, which means browsing is a breeze. To me, Power Park is one of the finest record shops in Berlin. I had tons of fun finding great albums and listening to great music. If you're in Berlin, this is a great place to go. I highly recommend it. And you should be here with me. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. There's more great content coming soon. Thank you.